Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshek. This is the Into the Weekend with BetDSI show for the College Bowl opening lines. The College Bowls, of course, are out. The matchups have been set, and the opening lines are already out. And we are going to talk right now with Brent, the headlines manager at DSI Sportsbook. Just talk to him a little bit about odds making for bowls in general, and then talk to him about some of the notable early action that he's taken on the opening lines, if in fact he did take any. Brent, thanks so much for doing this with us once again.
Always glad to be with you, Peter.
All right, so let's just start off with a few general questions about the kind of action that you take on the bowls. How much do the sharps bet the bowls? How much does the public bet the bowls? And when does the action come in? Like, do the sharps hit the opening lines as soon as they come in? And does the public usually wait to the game of day to bet the heavy action on the bowls each week?
Yeah, there's a handful of guys, and I would say, you can count them on your fingers who typically bet stuff early. Now, these are the same guys who are betting the college football lines early. Yeah. All season long. So when lines come out Sunday night, Monday morning, whatever it is, those are the guys who are usually firing at that time. Now, will they continue to bet during the week if they find value? Of course they will. Now, the volume that we get on game day is just astronomical compared to what we get during the week, and you see that in terms of line movements and stuff like that. You see how those very dramatic line moves, especially on game day because of that. So we do get a ton more action, I'm going to say, on the day of the game, and especially in terms of the public as well. You definitely get more on game day because you're talking about especially these games now. You're talking about games that are weeks and weeks away. So it comes down to an issue of managing your bankrolls as well, which is obviously very important.
Yeah.
Now, sharps, typically being sharps, don't have those issues. They don't have bankroll issues. They got a loaded gun and they're ready to fire at any time. And if they need to, they just reload. They're always having money in their pockets and being ready to fire is never a problem for those guys. But when you're looking at all the college basketball games we're dealing now, NBA is going, hockey's going, all the stuff going on right now. So people definitely have to manage their bankroll a little bit better. And of course, you want to fire. It used to be where you had all these games going on Saturday, so you could unload on Saturday, then reload and fire up again on Sunday. Well, now it's the case where you're gonna be firing on Sunday stuff first. So you have to make sure you have enough money in your for that. But in terms of sharps and how much they play the early games and stuff like that, it's they definitely do play early. Again, there's guys who just they see value, they see the number that they want to grab, so they definitely grab it right away. You'll see quite a bit of when we talk about the stuff that I've taken so far. There's quite a few games that have been fired on by sharps, and you'll see that the movement has been kind of significant as well. From a line moving perspective, it is a little bit different for us because you're looking at games weeks away where instead of condensing it down to take the day of the game for example, it's kind of easy in terms of managing your lines like that on the game of the day because there is a set time where everyone who's going to unload has to unload by this time because they're kicking off. So you have a lot of I'll call it fast and furious action on the day of the game right up until kickoff, and guys you bounce the numbers back and forth and stuff like that. Whereas now when guys are coming in now, you're saying you don't really have an indication of how much a line is going to move on day of the game. You have a much better feeling by how your weight you count in terms of how many bets you taken on team A and B, how much you move, where the starting number was, blah blah blah. Whereas games right now, it's like okay, I moved from 3 to 3.5 and I haven't got any bets back. These games going in say 2 weeks, just to throw a number out there. How much time do I have before some other sharps can hit me on the same side, or is someone else sitting back and waiting for a number to come back? I've gone from 3 to 3.5. Someone's sitting there thinking, wow, maybe it's going to go to 4, and I like that number. So it's kind of like a slow burn in terms of all these games right. When they're so far in advance. But if someone finds value, they're going to jump on it.
So let me ask you just about the sharp action that you take initially when the opening lines are released. Is that about the same amount of sharp action that you take on any Sunday night when the opening lines are open for an average week of college football, or is it more or less than that when you open the lines for the bowls?
It's pretty much the same, and again, okay. There's your guys who are just going to fire right away, and they have fired, and there's other guys who are going to hold off until game day, and you kind of know who those guys are. We also have pretty I do a decent job of profiling customers in terms of who's taking a side just because it's a number grab. They think that they're getting 4.5, and they think the number's going to close maybe 3 and a slight juice, so they lay the 3 and say 5 and grabbing the 4.5, stuff like that. So, but you have a good idea if you know your customer base in terms of managing those guys and knowing that they're not really picking a side, they're picking a line move.
All right, Brent, thanks so much for that little insight into how the action comes in when the lines open for the bowl games. And, of course, they have been out now for a day or two. What can you tell us about the notable action that you've taken on the opening lines for the college bowls?
We're going to start off with San Diego State. They're playing Houston in, I guess it's the Las Vegas Bowl, which is taking place nowhere else other than Las Vegas. And actually, this is kind of one of the more notable games just because I have two different sharps on San Diego State. So
really?
Two guys going the same way this early is it's kind of a good indication for us, and it definitely helps us with our numbers. Houston's been, very much a public side in terms of their offense and stuff like that. So it's kind of a good spot for us in that San Diego State's not a name brand team, whereas Houston got a lot more publicity this year. They started off early in the season. I think they knocked off Oklahoma, some of that. So they've kind of been in the news, we'll call it. But I have my first sharp hit on San Diego State came out +3.5 -110. Took another sharp play on San Diego State +3 even money. Right now we're at Houston either 3 flat or 3 -15, bouncing back and forth. Now my wager count here is almost 3-1 favoring Houston. So the public money that I have taken on this game has gone to Houston, which kind of is no surprise. But the sharp money definitely on San Diego State. Again, two different sharps, +3.5 and +3 even money.
Wow. Yeah. So because this line hasn't, it was 3.5 early, but since it went to 3, it looks like it hasn't moved much market wide. But you're saying that that's because the public is weighing it out on the other side, bouncing it out?
Yeah, exactly. And the public is on Houston. So you kind of take a look at your wager count and say, the thing is to a lot of the times we talk about public bettors, and you're thinking about your guys who are betting, $1, $2, $3, $500 on a game, whereas your sharps are betting, 5s and 10s, 5 and 10,000 per game.
Yeah.
But there's also, guys who we're going to call public bettors, or I'm not going to call them square, but guys who are public bettors who, over the long term, will lose money, who also will fire $5,000 and $10,000 on the game. So, if you kind of, sit back and hope for some of those guys to come in. I mean, right now, just talking about that Houston San Diego State game as an example, our money, definitely favors San Diego State. It's almost like 3, almost 4-1 right now. But again, it's so early. You're almost a week away from this one. A little bit more than a week away, so you got time to get your money back, obviously. And the wager count indicates it's kind of going to come with Houston. But in terms of the line movement, we've gone from 3.5, and again, remember the line went from 3.5 down to 3, favorite 20. So now we're down to 3.15 or 3 flat. So it's a pretty decent move because you don't want to be busting through 3 going down to 2.5 too quickly.
Right. All right. Interesting information, Brent. What else can you tell us about notable action you've taken on the opening lines?
I can tell you about one of those typical teams that the public loves betting over is the sharp guys are betting under on, and that would be Baylor and Boise State. That's the Cactus Bowl. On the side, we've got Boise State as a 7.5-point favorite. Nothing notable in terms of sharp action on the side, but we've got sharp action on the under of this one. Sharp money came under 68, and we're down to 66.5 right now. Talking about the wager count, how I suggest the public in a team, a team like Baylor, they're typically betting the over. We've actually seen the sharps, I think, quite consistently over the second half of the season betting Baylor games under. So they're already on this one under 68. We're at 66.5 right now. My wager count's almost 4-1 favoring the over, though. So that's just public money betting the number over.
Yeah, they were wrong though when they bet the under on the last Western Kentucky Louisiana Tech game, though. Remember that one?
Slightly wrong, right?
What else can you tell us about notable action, Brent?
Yeah, I think that game was over by halftime or something like that. Yeah, that was. But the thing is, too, you have to look at obviously there's sharps. Let's say long term they're going to win 57% of the time. It's just like that's a decent win percentage. That's a decent number. So obviously you break some eggs, make some omelets and stuff like that. And when they're wrong, sometimes they can be really wrong. But whether you're wrong by 30 points on a total or you're wrong by 2 points on a total, it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
Wrong is wrong.
For sure. All right. What else do you have for us, Brent?
Another side for you here is that Northwestern and Pittsburgh in the Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium, which should be interesting. It's interesting, too, when you take a look at these games this time of year. Typically, weather is not really as much of a factor in terms of you've got these games taking place in Florida, Arizona, Texas, Las Vegas, as we touched on. So weather doesn't usually come into play, but in this game, that might be one of the exceptions to the rule with the game being late December in New York. But the play I have here from the Sharps is on the side. If you follow the line movement at all, you've seen the line has gone from 4.5 straight to 5.5, and that was because I took sharp money on Pittsburgh minus 4.5. Absolutely, it's interesting. I looked at this game yesterday as well. I didn't have a single straight bet on Northwestern yesterday, and I still don't. So 5.5 has done absolutely nothing in terms of attracting money back on Northwestern. But this is the beauty of the situation. Looking at a game that's going on December 28th, we've got time to get some stuff back. But Pittsburgh minus 4.5 is where the sharp action came. We're at 5.5 right now, and not a drop back on Northwestern yet. Another side for you here is we've got West Virginia as a sharp play. West Virginia plus 3.5, minus 115. They're playing Miami, Florida. This game being in Orlando, Florida, so maybe almost like a home game for Miami, but in Orlando, Florida, the Russell Athletic Bowl sharp action came in on West Virginia plus a 3.5, minus 115. My wager count actually is quite dramatically favoring West Virginia too, which is kind of a surprising. Miami, Florida is kind of one of those teams that the public knows about. They're kind of like a brand name team. I guess guess you will. But West Virginia was they had a very good record this year. They had a very good season, sitting at 10-2. But my wager count is almost like 3-1 favoring West Virginia. And again, the sharp action that I took was plus 3.5, minus 115. Line now is Miami minus 3, minus 05. So basically, we've moved a full half point on a 3 and left the juice on West Virginia. Down to Kansas State, Texas A&M. I've got another total play there, and probably no surprise in terms of the early sharp action that came on the under. Sharp action there. Again, this is Kansas State, Texas A&M. Our spread right now is 2.5. Pretty much one side in terms of the action I've taken favoring Texas A&M, but nothing big. But the sharp action did come on the total. Under 58 is where that came in. We're sitting at 56.5 right now. Not a bunch of money either way on this one in terms of the total there. Another one for you, another side is Air Force. Again, this one moved, this line moved Air Force from a 12-point favorite to a 13-point favorite now. That is because of sharp action. I've even seen some 13 minus 15s out there. I've seen 13.5 on Air Force as well. So looks like that number is going to be creeping up because the Sharps have played their hand in terms of betting Air Force, and the public too seems to be on them as well. I've got the wager count almost 2-1 favoring Air Force. So I got public money and sharp money, it looks like, on Air Force right now. Again, we're sitting at 13 right now. We took the sharp bet at 12, so I could see that creeping up just based on the fact that I got public money going the same way as the Sharps. Another total for you is Florida State and Michigan. Right now on the side, we've got Michigan as a 7-point favorite. They're at the Orange Bowl here, so Florida State kind of sitting in their home state. Wager count on the side is almost 3-1 favoring Michigan right now. We're sitting as them as a 7-point favorite. This line's kind of bounced back and forth in terms of the between 6.5 and 7, getting decent money both ways. They've got quite a bit of action came on Michigan minus 6.5 and quite a bit as well the other way on Florida State at plus 7. Kind of like a pseudo sharp bet, we'll call it, on Florida State plus a 7. So I could see this number bouncing back and forth between 6.5 and 7. But the sharp action that I did take was on the total here, and it came under 57.5. Right now we're sitting at 55, and I've got money wise it's almost all on the under because of the sharp play that did come in. And the final play for you is the a total play on one of the big games, which is Washington and Alabama. And again, if you've seen the opening number and where it is now, we're sitting at 54.5. Sharp action came under 58, so that's quite a big line move there in terms of the total. 3.5 point move on the total already here. And again, I've got wager count almost dead even, which may or may not be surprising. I don't know. Alabama's got a pretty stout defense, but Washington looks like one of those teams that are kind of decent all around. The side right now, sitting on Alabama minus 16. I've seen this number bounce between 16. Well, it was 17 earlier, but it's also bounced down to 15.5. I think it was 15.5 yesterday. Kind of just back and forth. Nothing, no sharp action really to speak of. It was what I would call some respectable action that came in on Washington plus 17.5, but nothing super sharp either way. No list guys yet on the side, but we are sitting with sharp action on the under 58 down to 54.5 right now, Peter.
Wow. All right. So as far as sharp action is concerned, what would you expect? Would you expect to get basically nothing now that the lines are out between now and kickoff for each or game day for each game, or do you think that there will be sharp action trickling in throughout the week, every week during bowl season?
Yeah, it's definitely going to trickle in as we get closer to game time, and kind of like if there's any doubt in terms of coaching situations, some guy like Houston coach leaving, who's going to take over for them, stuff like that. You hear all these rumors this time of year, and it's just inevitable this time of year that you're going to hear about someone getting suspended for some kind of team violation, and it's usually involved drugs, alcohol, or women, shockingly enough.
All right, well, we'll be doing videos each week, each Friday, covering the upcoming bowl games for the subsequent week, all throughout bowl season. Thanks so much for this initial thoughts and look into bowl lines. Thanks so much, Brent.